Millionaire finds out the maid was hiding 2 girls in his mansion and uncovers who they really are. Hi. Welcome to another story. If you enjoy it, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications. Gregory walked down the stairs, guided only by the persistent, muffled noise coming from the basement. There shouldn't have been anyone there. The house was empty that night, just like he preferred. Silence had always been his only companion, and any unauthorized sound was a direct affront to the order he imposed on his own home. The noise sounded light, like held breath or stifled sobs. When he reached the door leading to the cellar, he paused for a moment. He stood still, trying to understand the uncomfortable feeling growing in his chest. Something was wrong. He slowly turned the doorknob, steady hand, eyes narrowed, and descended the rest of the stairs, ears alert. In the darkest corner, almost hidden behind a cupboard covered with sheets, he saw them. And the image froze everything. The 2 girls were curled up, dirty, eyes wide open, their bodies pressed against each other as if the slightest distance would be a threat. One of them held the other by the shoulders, trembling. And next to them, kneeling, was Nancy, the woman he had known for years, the most loyal employee of the house, with a blanket in her hands, trying to wrap them up. When Nancy's gaze met his, everything collapsed. She dropped the blanket, her lips parted, but no words came out. Only tears fell from her eyes as she tried to stand up. "Sir, I can explain," Nancy said, her voice trembling as if her vocal cords were made of glass about to shatter. Gregory didn't answer, his eyes fixed on the girls as if trying to comprehend the incomprehensible. Everything there violated his rules, security, order, protocols. None of this should have been happening. 2 children hidden in the basement of his house, invading his space, hidden by her. "Please don't send them away. They have nowhere to go," Nancy said, taking a step forward. I just wanted to protect them, sir. That's all." "Come upstairs," Gregory said, without changing his tone, but with a voice as firm as steel. "Now." "But," Nancy whispered, stifled. "Come upstairs, and stay silent," Gregory repeated, eyes fixed on her. Nancy hesitated for a second, her eyes begging for compassion, but the rigidity in his face was impenetrable. She slowly climbed, like someone ascending the steps of their own sentence, without the courage to look back. Gregory stayed still in the middle of the basement for long seconds, his heart beating heavy. The girls remained motionless, like cornered animals. He took a few steps closer and stopped. The slightest movement from him made one of them curl up even more. The smaller one flinched at the sound of a dripping leak nearby. The other turned her face to the wall, as if the world didn't exist. "You," Gregory said, but his voice sounded distant even to himself. "Who are you?" No one answered. They didn't even look at him. Time seemed suspended, caught between their fear and the emptiness growing inside him. He sat on a chair nearby, unsure whether to call the police, a doctor, or simply kick them out. But he couldn't. He just watched. The eyes of the 2 carried something he hadn't seen in a long time. An emptiness he recognized. A kind of fear no one learns to fake. The smaller one shuddered again when she heard a dog barking outside. Gregory frowned. The other hugged her body as if she could protect her with her own arms. The silence between them was thick, and instead of answers, he saw invisible scars. Scars he himself knew. He remembered being kept silent in his boarding school. The nights he pretended to be asleep to avoid punishment. The rich kids with dead eyes. The coldness of the caretakers. The echo of that pain seemed to replay now, right before his eyes. Hours passed. He couldn't leave. The girls didn't speak. They just existed, on alert. When the sun began to hint at daybreak, he went upstairs. Nancy was sitting on the couch, head down, like someone awaiting a sentence. "Whose are they?" Gregory asked, his voice colder than even he wanted. "They're my niece's daughters, Catherine's," Nancy replied without lifting her eyes. "Catherine died. I saw it in the paper. Car accident, right?" Gregory said, frowning. "It wasn't an accident," Nancy said, swallowing hard. "She was running away." "Running away from whom?" Gregory asked, already anticipating the answer. "The girl's father. Donald," Nancy said, the name dripping like poison. Gregory stopped. That name had passed his ears before. Someone in the business world. Notorious for his political contacts, but always surrounded by rumors. "Go on," Gregory said, crossing his arms. He's trying to get the girls. Says he wants custody, but it's not out of love, sir. It's for something horrible," Nancy said, hesitant. Gregory narrowed his eyes. Nancy hesitated, then spoke quietly. "He's part of a network of trafficking, child trafficking." Gregory didn't answer. He just turned, eyes fixed on the wall. This was too serious. Nancy realized he wouldn't say more, so she continued. "My niece found out everything. She was threatened. She reported it, but they covered it up. The reports disappeared. They said she was unstable, that she was lying," Nancy said, voice growing quieter. "And you brought these children into my house without telling me?" Gregory asked, his anger barely contained. "Yes," Nancy answered without hesitation. "Because this was the only place I thought they'd be safe." "You broke every rule in my house," Gregory said, staring at her. "I did," Nancy said, "and I'd do it again." Gregory stared at her. Something inside him was boiling. It wasn't just anger. It was something more confused. A mix of betrayal, helplessness, and an old pain without a name. He turned his back and went upstairs to his room. He spent 2 days without saying a word to Nancy. Avoided the basement, avoided the mirror, avoided the truth. He slept poorly, dreamed of children screaming, of boarding schools, punishments, girls' eyes that didn't know how to ask for help, but begged silently. On the 3rd night, Nancy knocked on his door. When he opened, he saw her expression. She was pale, with deep dark circles, her body bent as if time had folded her bones. "I need to talk to you. Now," Nancy said urgently. Gregory made an impatient gesture, but she entered. "There's one more thing. I haven't told you," Nancy said, unable to meet his gaze. He looked at her silently. "Before she died, my niece gave me a letter. It was a plea, a begging. She said, 'Don't let him take my daughters. If he succeeds, he'll ruin them. He'll destroy what's left of me,' Nancy told him, almost breathless. "And you read that and thought hiding the girls here was the best solution?" Gregory asked bitterly. "I knocked on many doors, sir. Many. No one listened. They just told me to shut up. The reports she filed disappeared. Those who tried to help her vanished. The police did nothing. The justice system ignored it. I didn't know who to trust anymore," Nancy said, almost crying. "Not even me?" Gregory said, voice heavy with disappointment. "Not even you," Nancy replied. "You were always just, but never affectionate, always distant. I was afraid you'd react like you are now, with anger, with disdain." Gregory turned his face. Something inside him was breaking. "So you put me in the middle of this." "Hid a crime inside my house," Gregory said, swallowing his rage. "It wasn't a crime. It was desperation," Nancy answered, voice breaking. He stayed silent. The woman he trusted had broken that trust, but for a reason that made him unable to hate her completely. Still, he said nothing more, just pointed to the door. Nancy left quietly. and the silence lasted 2 more days. Until Donald showed up. The doorbell rang. One of the guards answered. Gregory wasn't home. Nancy went down the stairs and froze when she saw who was at the door. Donald, dressed in a suit, smelling of cologne, a fake smile on his lips. Next to him, 2 men in suits, badges hanging from their necks. He held up an envelope. "Court documents," Donald said coldly. "Custody granted. I'm here to pick up my daughters." Nancy's legs gave way. "They're not going with you," Nancy said, her voice trying to sound firm. "Are you sure?" Donald said, lowering his voice. "You know what they say about people who hide minors? Jail, kidnapping. You want that on your record?" "I know who you are," Nancy answered firmly. Donald stepped closer and whispered into her ear. "And I know where you shop, even the neighbor's dog's name. Imagine what I can do with 2 minutes of your carelessness." Nancy went pale. Her hands trembled. The men outside were already heading to the entrance. That's when Gregory arrived. He got out of the car, and what he saw made his blood boil. Nancy in tears. The girls being dragged forcibly by 2 men into a black car, and the guard nearby, motionless, an accomplice. "Let them go now," Gregory shouted, running to the gate. Donald raised his hands. Calm down. We're just carrying out a court order," Donald said, trying to appear calm. Gregory didn't answer. He lunged at the guard, and without warning, landed a solid punch on his face. The man fell to the ground, stunned. Then Gregory grabbed the papers from Donald's hands and tore them up right there. "This is trash. It's worthless in this house," Gregory shouted, furious. Donald stepped back. "You don't know who you're messing with," he said through clenched teeth. "And you don't know what I've lost to get where I am," Gregory shouted. "I'm the one in charge here, and no one touches them again." The shout echoed through the house. Employees stopped. Nancy covered her mouth, shocked. The girls ran back, grabbing his legs, and Gregory, for the first time in decades, let them hug him. His eyes were wet, but he didn't try to hide it, because at that moment, something inside him broke, and in the cracks, for the first time, something new grew. That night, Gregory didn't sleep a wink. He walked through the house in silence, his footsteps echoing in the hallways, as if searching for meaning. The girls' faces wouldn't leave his mind. Nor Nancy's trembling voice, nor the defeated look on her face as she left the office. The feeling was of being pulled into something he never wanted to be part of, but now couldn't escape. At dawn, he sat at the desk where he usually reviewed contracts and reports. But this time, he spread out documents, photos, notes, and a yellowed letter, the one Nancy had given him, written by Catherine. The words written there carried weight, pain, and truth. He picked up the phone, dialed his personal lawyer, and got straight to the point. "I need temporary custody of 2 minors, and I need it now." On the other end, the man hesitated, but Gregory left no room for doubt. "Gather evidence, find witnesses. I authorize everything. And call a forensic expert. I want everything by the book, but I want it yesterday." Throughout the day, calls were made, orders delegated. A private investigator was hired to check Donald's background. A legal team started gathering reports, documents, and Catherine's history. Nancy handed over the little she had kept, copies of filed complaints, ignored emails, screenshots of threats her niece had received. "It's not much," she said, "but it's all we managed to save." Gregory looked over the material and replied without looking away. "It'll be enough. I'll make it count." The girls stayed inside the house, quiet, trying to understand if this was the end of fear or just another pause before the storm. But what came next wasn't silence. It was noise, exposure. As soon as the custody request was filed, Gregory's family appeared as if they smelled the scandal. The brothers, estranged for years, started calling, texting, demanding explanations. "Are you okay?" the eldest asked. "Or have you lost your mind for good?" Gregory replied coldly. "I'm clearer-headed than ever." But the phrase seemed to be a trigger. In less than 2 days, lawyers from his own family filed for his guardianship. They claimed he'd been emotionally manipulated, that he was unstable, that he endangered the family's reputation by sheltering children with no biological ties. "They said you're sick?" Nancy asked, shocked, after reading one of the stories that exploded on news sites. "They said you lost your mind over 2 orphans." Gregory slammed the paper shut. They were always good at disappearing when it was convenient. But now that they smell inheritance, they come back like vultures. Nancy lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry. This is happening because of me." But Gregory raised his hand. "No, it's happening because they never stood seeing someone make a decision out of principle. And now, they're desperate because for the first time, I'm not alone." The press, as if expecting a scandal, dived into the case voraciously. Headlines appeared everywhere. "Millionaire illegally shelters minors," one read. "Employee manipulates boss and family scheme," read another. Nancy was made a joke. The girls, called dangerous intruders, were described as a threat to the mansion's security. Old photos of Catherine were taken out of context, and Donald, smiling to cameras, gave interviews. "I only want what's best for my daughters," he said. "I'm being denied my rights as a father." Gregory watched it all from afar, fists clenched. But he didn't respond, not publicly, not yet, until the day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom was full. Newspapers waited outside. Gregory's brothers were present with lawyers paid by the pound. Donald was there too, wearing an expensive suit, accompanied by a smiling attorney. Nancy sat in the witness stand, hands clasped, serious face. When the judge called her, she stood slowly but firmly. No one expected what was coming. "Ms. Nancy, what do you have to say about all this?" the judge asked. She took a deep breath and answered, "Everything." And then she began. She told everything from the start, from the days Catherine showed up at her house with red eyes, torn clothes. She spoke about the fear her niece felt, the threats she received. She told me that if she disappeared, I was to run with the girls. That's what I did. The judge raised an eyebrow. "You claim you knew the risks?" Nancy nodded. "I knew, and I would accept each one of them again, because hiding 2 children from a monster isn't a crime, it's a duty." The audience murmured. The prosecutor asked for silence. Nancy went on. "He's there," she said, pointing at Donald. "And he knows I know. He knows Catherine recorded conversations. He knows she filed complaints. He knows she tried to bribe a detective. I saw it. I was there." Donald laughed mockingly. "She's lying." But the judge told him to be quiet. Nancy wasn't shaken. "I heard the screams in her house, the anonymous calls that made my phone ring late into the night. One night, someone threw a rock at my window with a note. 'Next will be you.' And I stayed silent, out of fear. But today I won't be silent." Tears streamed down, but her voice didn't falter. "What these girls went through, no one should go through. Not even an animal. I hid them. I lied. I betrayed my employer. But I'd do it all again, because for the first time in my life I disobeyed to protect. And if that's a crime, I'm willing to pay." The courtroom was silent, no sound, just held breaths and eyes fixed on her. The judge was writing something, serious. Nancy returned to her seat, and at that moment, Gregory stood, holding the girls' hands, one on each side. He said nothing, but looked at the judge. And everyone understood what that gesture meant. The prosecutor, a man known for his integrity, stood. "Your Honor, in light of the new evidence, I request that the defense's collected proof be urgently added to the case file. The seriousness demands immediate action." The judge nodded. "The request will be granted." Donald reacted. "This is a circus, a sham staged to defame me." The judge interrupted him. "Sir, sit down. Any further interruptions and I will take action." Donald backed down, but his look was pure hatred. In the following days, new complaints surfaced. People who had been silent before decided to speak out. Audio recordings appeared, videos too. Donald was taken into preventive custody, accused of criminal association and witness tampering. The mansion's accomplice guard was also interrogated and ended up confessing he'd been paid to open the gate that day. The press, which had attacked before, now turned against the true criminal. And Gregory's brothers, seeing their attempt to have him declared incapacitated fail and their reputations tarnished, disappeared from the media without a trace. Inside the mansion, everything changed. The basement was remodeled. The formerly damp walls were painted. Soft rugs, shelves filled with books, toys scattered around. The old office, which had served only to sign papers and close deals, became a study room. The girls now had notebooks, colored pencils, a small blackboard with poorly erased sums. And Gregory? Gregory started waking up to drawings taped to his bedroom door. One showed 3 figures holding hands, with their names scribbled next to his. "Is that you?" Nancy asked one day, holding one of the drawings. Gregory looked and said simply, "I think so." She smiled, said nothing else, and didn't need to. Because in that house, where once there was only silence, now there were voices. Running footsteps. Shy laughter. Life. Those who once criticized him disappeared. Those who tried to destroy him were exposed. And he, without climbing any podium, without giving a single interview, without saying a single catchphrase, showed what no one expected. That sometimes the most important decisions aren't about right or wrong. They're about courage, about not turning away, about doing what needs to be done, even when no one's watching. In the end, the consequences came. Gregory lost partners, lost contracts, lost the cold prestige of people who only shook his hand out of convenience. But he gained something he didn't know he needed. A family. Nancy, once invisible, became the beating heart of that house. The girls who arrived hidden became the only residents he would ever let leave. And as he watched them from the window, running through the garden, Gregory understood. There was no turning back. The man he used to be was left in the past. And even amid chaos, pain, exposure, and loss, there was one certainty no one could take from him. It took a silent act of disobedience to reveal the only true gesture that house had witnessed in decades. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.